What if your next dream is a warning from an angel? Have you ever imagined waking up in the middle of the night, with your heart racing, after a confusing dream, and the next day realizing that that image, that strange sensation, was a sign, a silent warning that could have saved, or still can save your life? It's not just imagination. Many people report experiences like this: prophetic dreams, encounters with beings of light, and premonitions that become reality hours later. Coincidence? Or is there something bigger trying to communicate with you when everything is silent? While we sleep, we are vulnerable, but also more open. It is at this moment that the invisible seems to find a way to reach us. Dreams are like encrypted messages from heaven, and in some cases, they are true spiritual warnings given by angels trying to protect us from something that is yet to come. Maybe you have never stopped to think about this, or maybe you have already experienced something similar and ignored it for fear of seeming crazy. But what if what you felt was real? What if that strange sensation that remained in the air when you woke up was a divine sign? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now might surprise you. Many ancient cultures believed that dreams were sacred portals, messages from above for those who were willing to listen. And when we talk about angelic warnings, everything becomes even more intense. Angels do not always appear with wings or celestial lights. Sometimes, the most effective way to touch a human being is precisely when they are unconscious, unarmed, and without distractions. That is why, at crucial moments in our lives, they use dreams as a path. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever had a dream so real that it seemed more like an experience than a simple illusion? Have you ever woken up with that uncomfortable feeling in your chest, as if something was about to happen, and then saw everything fall into place in a frightening way? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. About dreams that aren't just dreams. About divine signs that appear when we least expect them. About mysterious warnings that arrive in the silence of the early morning, and that, often, save lives. Throughout this video, you will learn real stories of ordinary people who received messages in their dreams and escaped tragedies because of them. Dreams about fires, accidents, encounters with figures of light, and even voices that warned of danger. Stories that defy logic, but that carry a profound truth, that we are being watched, guided and protected, even when we do not realize it. And don't think that this only happens to special people. Sometimes, all the spiritual world needs is someone with an attentive heart and the sensitivity to understand what is being shown. Perhaps, without knowing it, you have already been touched by divine intervention, and only now will you begin to understand what it really meant. Now take a deep breath, because the journey we are about to begin will change the way you see your own dreams, and that's why, before we move on, I want to open up a space for you here with me. Because this channel is not just a place where stories are told, it's a space for exchange, for lived experiences, for hearts awakening together. If any part of this introduction touched you in a special way, if by chance, you've ever had a dream that left you uneasy, or if you feel like you've perhaps received a warning from above and are only now connecting the dots, share it here in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read to understand what they're going through. And if this topic resonates with you, if you believe that dreams can be more than just images of the mind, that they carry messages, warnings, and perhaps even the presence of something divine, then enjoy this video now. This shows me that you are truly here, that this type of content makes a difference, and helps this message reach more people who may need a word, a sign, or even an awakening. And, of course, if you want to continue on this journey with me, discovering other stories like this, real, profound, and often supernatural, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every time you do this, you are saying, yes, I want to hear more about what the invisible is trying to tell us. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. So special, and, often, forgotten in the rush of everyday life. So breathe. Look inside, because what comes next are real stories that will make you look at your dreams with different eyes. Because understanding what prophetic dreams are is like opening a window to something that has always been there, but that we rarely have the courage or sensitivity to face in depth. Most people live on autopilot, dealing with pressures, distractions, and decisions all the time. They go to bed exhausted, wake up tired, and go about their day as if life were all that they can see. But what many people don't realize is that, often, the most important signs don't come when we're awake. They arrive in the silent backstage of the mind. In the symbolic and mysterious world of dreams. And, of all types of dreams, prophetic dreams are the most disturbing. Because they are not the result of a random thought or a disconnected memory from the previous day. They come with a purpose. They carry a strange, intense, almost spiritual force. They are fragments of a reality that has not yet happened, but that, in some way, already touches your spirit before reaching your body. They manifest themselves as glimpses of the future, as flashes of the invisible trying to translate themselves so that the soul can understand. And the most curious thing is that, when this happens, we feel it. There is no way to ignore it. The dream stays with you, silently haunts you, as if it were asking to be taken seriously. Have you ever experienced something like this? Have you ever dreamed of an unknown place and, weeks later, realized that you were exactly there? Or dreamed of a person you hadn't seen for years, only to have them appear the next day, bringing unexpected news? Perhaps you have felt that deep uneasy, strange sensation that what you saw in your dream was not just a thought, but a sign. That is exactly where the mystery of prophetic dreams lies, at the intersection between visible reality and messages from the invisible. In many spiritual traditions, this type of experience is called prophetic sensitivity, and ability of the soul to sense what is about to happen. It is not a gift of divination, nor is it something reserved for special people. It is a perception that we can all develop. It is like tuning an instrument that has been silent for too long. Most of us have had this type of dream, but dismissed it as a coincidence. But the spiritual universe does not work with coincidences. It works with synchronicity, with revelation, with care. And when we talk about revelations, we cannot ignore the role of angels in this journey. Many people imagine angels as celestial beings who only appear in great miracles, with intense light and open wings. But the truth, the most profound and, perhaps, most transformative, is that angels rarely make noise. They do not invade your life with a spectacle. They appear in silence, in intuition, in discreet gestures, in premonitions, and mainly, in dreams. When the mind slows down, when the masks fall, and when the spirit, finally, has space to breathe. During sleep, we are more spiritually accessible. The barriers of logic, reason, and emotional control fall. And it is precisely in this state that angels whisper. They do not use words. They use images, sensations, atmospheres, a touch on the shoulder, a look that leaves a mark, a presence that you cannot explain. And this happens because it is at night, in the sacred moment of rest, that the soul is cleanest, closest to heaven, as if God left a crack open between the worlds, just so that a message could pass through. But the question is, how many times do we ignore these messages? How many times do we wake up scared, restless, with our heart racing, and simply say what a weird dream and move on with our day? What if that dream had a greater meaning? What if it was a warning, a revelation, or even an attempt by heaven to change its course? The modern mindset tends to distance us from this. It prefers to reduce everything to brain impulses, random electrical connections, or pure mental fatigue. But anyone who has truly experienced a prophetic dream knows that it is different. It does not disappear, it sticks. It pulses within us like a truth that is yet to be fulfilled. It comes with impact, and often, with protection. Some people only realize it after it's all happened. They look back and say, "Oh my God, I dreamed it," but others, and maybe you're one of them, are already waking up. They've begun to realize that there's something bigger at work in the silence. They've come to understand that dreams aren't nocturnal nonsense, but part of a journey of revelation, a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a place where angels still speak. And the more you allow yourself to believe this, the more the signs appear, because spirituality moves in the same way as your openness. And if you open your heart, the codes begin to be deciphered. Dreams stop being enigmas and start being guides. And that's where the transformation begins. When you exchange skepticism for sensitivity, when you stop seeing dreams as noise and start to understand them as guidance. Prophetic dreams are not uncommon. They are part of the plan. They are little maps left for you along the way. And when you ignore them, you miss a chance. But when you pay attention, everything changes. Your way of perceiving the world, your way of making decisions, even your way of protecting yourself. Because what you see in your dream may be revealing a hidden truth, something that your eyes have not yet reached, but that your soul already knows. So, maybe that strange dream, that you never forgot, wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was a calling, a direct message from heaven, an intervention. And if that's true, understanding this sign could be the beginning of a real change in your life. Because once you realize it, there's no going back. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Just so I know you're connected with me on this journey. Now that we've started to open that door, I want to take you even deeper, because when we begin to understand that dreams can be more than disconnected images of the mind, a powerful question arises. Why would angels choose dreams as a way to warn us? Why don't they appear clearly and directly during the day, when we are awake and conscious? The answer is as simple as it is profound, because it is during sleep that we are most receptive. It is there, in the interval between logic and the invisible, that the barriers of reason fall and the spirit opens. While the body rests, the soul listens. During the day, our minds are overloaded. Racing thoughts, worries, choices, external noises, internal demands. We live numb due to excessive stimuli. The truth is that the signs often appear in that sudden shiver, in that intuition that you couldn't explain, in that glance that crossed yours and seemed to bring a silent warning. But we ignore it. Logic speaks louder. The blind rush. And that's why the most important signs usually appear precisely when we are silent, vulnerable, surrendered. Sleep is this sacred space. It is there that the backstage of our existence moves. It is when we leave survival mode and enter a dimension of truth. And it is in this invisible territory, between the conscious and the divine, that the angels act. They do not need our reasoning. They need our open heart. And the heart, when we are asleep, is no longer concerned with judgments. It just feels. Maybe that's why dreams with angelic messages are so vivid, so intense. You wake up and still feel that strange emotion in your body. Sometimes fear, sometimes peace, sometimes an urgency that can't be explained with words. But what really stays is that feeling in your chest, as if something had been said, even if you didn't understand everything rationally. And that, in itself, is already a sign. Times have you had a strange dream and been left with that feeling of alertness in your chest? A kind of knot that stays with you throughout the day, as if the dream hadn't ended when you woke up. This happens because some messages can't be erased. They were written in another language, one that transcends time, space, and logic. And the more you ignore it, the stronger it comes back. Not violently, but with spiritual insistence. That is important to understand that angels do not communicate like humans do. They do not knock on your door with a signed letter. They do not use words in the literal sense. They work with impressions, images, emotions, atmospheres. They are experts in subtlety, and dreams are the perfect stage for this symbolic language. There, everything can be revealed without the interference of doubt. A staircase can be a call, a fire can be a warning, a road can be a decision, and a luminous figure can be a presence that has been with you for much longer than you imagine. These manifestations are not random, they have intention. And what defines whether or not you will understand the message is your willingness to look carefully. Because angels will not shout to be heard. They respect your free will. They simply place before you a symbol, a scenario, an emotion, and they let you decide what to do with it. The final decision is always yours. But if you are awake within, you will feel when a dream is not just a dream. You will understand that something has been delivered there, a hidden truth, a possibility for transformation. And look how interesting. Many people only realize that the dream was a warning after the situation happens, as if time had left clues along the way, and you could only see them when you look back. This is not a failure, it is part of the process. But as you become more connected to this universe, you become more sensitive to the signs. You start to notice when something comes loaded with intention, and this changes the way you live. It changes your mindset, your decisions, your perception of the invisible. The truth is that the spiritual world is not far from us. It is here, now. But as long as we keep our eyes closed to what really matters, we will continue to be deaf to the messages that surround us every day. That is why angels insist on dreams, because they know that there is a real chance that you will hear. And when you hear, something inside you begins to wake up. The impact of recognizing these messages is profound, not only because it can free you from dangerous situations, and it does, but because you begin to walk with more purpose. You stop living life, reacting to the world, and start living connected to a broader dimension of existence. This strengthens you, it realigns you, it transforms you. You stop feeling lost, and you begin to realize that there is a spiritual network around you, attentive, active, present. It's as if a forgotten part of you begins to awaken, as if a new perspective emerges, capable of seeing beauty in coincidences, direction in uncertainty, and meaning even in silence. You begin to remember who you really are, and the paths you may have come here to follow. And dreams, in this context, become a compass, a gentle code left by heaven, a secret language that, when deciphered, reveals something precious. You are not alone. You never were. Write it down. I'm on this journey too, just so. I can feel that we are walking together on this invisible road. Now that we have opened this understanding, I want to move on with you to the next essential point of this journey. Because, no matter how much we talk about signs, dreams, and spiritual messages, nothing compares to the impact of when this actually happens to someone in a concrete, real, and undeniable way. And we are not talking about assumptions, nor about something that seems to have a meaning. We are talking about a case in which intuition, dreams, and invisible intervention met and saved a life. In fact, they saved an entire family. This story that I am going to tell you now is the kind of thing that changes mindsets, because it shows how the spiritual backstage is active even when the physical world seems calm. It was an ordinary morning, one of those times when everything seems silent, when nothing extraordinary is expected. But the night before, a woman, let's call her Eliza, had an extremely vivid dream. She dreamed that her house was on fire. It wasn't just any nightmare. It was as if she were really there, inside the house, feeling the heat, the smoke, hearing the crackling of the burning wood. In the dream, she ran to her children's room, shouted their names, tried to open the doors. Everything was fast-paced, confusing, but very real. She woke up scared, with her heart pounding and a strange sense of urgency that she couldn't explain. You know that kind of dream that you can't shake, that stays with you all day long, as if it were still happening inside you. That was exactly it. Eliza couldn't get it out of her head, and it wasn't like she was in the habit of being easily impressed. Quite the opposite. She was a practical, down-to-earth person, the kind of person who needs to see it to believe it. But that dream was different. It left a weight on her chest, an unspoken warning, but clearly felt. The next morning, after 3 in the morning, she woke up suddenly with a feeling of discomfort, a kind of restlessness in her body, something that wouldn't let her go back to sleep. And then the smell came. Subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it was there. A faint smell of smoke. A smell that shouldn't be there. She got up slowly, still half asleep, but alert. And it was when she got to the kitchen that everything made sense. The fire had started. A short circuit in an appliance. The flames were still contained, but they were spreading quickly along the wall. That moment of decision was crucial. Elisa ran, woke up her children, woke up her husband. She grabbed a blanket, tried to put out the fire. She called the fire department. Neighbors helped. The situation was controlled before it turned into a tragedy. But what she never forgot was the feeling, the intuition, the dream. After it was all over, she sat in the living room, her hands still shaking and her heart racing. And the only thing she could think was, I was warned. That was no coincidence. It wasn't a simple hunch. It was intervention. It was protection. It was as if something or someone had been there the whole time, trying to make sure nothing worse would happen. And somehow, they had succeeded. She had no logical explanation for it, and maybe she didn't even need to, because sometimes the hidden truth behind certain experiences can't be put into words. It's felt, period. There's something about this story that touches us, because it shows that there is a level of spiritual communication happening all the time, and that, yes, angels can visit us in our dreams, not to cause fear, but to awaken our consciousness, to put a piece on the board before the game gets out of control. The dream was the bridge, the channel, the code that needed to be deciphered, and even without understanding all the details, Eliza answered the call. She heard what many ignore. She moved, and that is exactly what we often lack. Sensitivity to feel what cannot be seen. Courage to pay attention to a message that does not come with subtitles. Maturity to understand that spirituality does not need a spectacle, it needs openness. The signs are there. The spiritual world is acting, even when you think nothing is happening, and this awareness changes everything. Because you stop living only reacting to problems, and start moving in a direction. This is transformation. This story also reveals how connected we all are to an invisible force that watches over us behind the scenes. It's not a comforting fantasy. It's a spiritual reality that many only recognize after they've been through something like this. And anyone who's had this experience knows how much of an impact it has. Because once you feel the presence of something greater watching over you, you'll never walk the same way again. Every decision takes on weight. Every intuition deserves attention. Every dream becomes a possibility. It is at this point in the journey that our perception changes. It stops being curiosity and becomes commitment. We stop treating dreams as mere nocturnal images, and begin to understand them as precious warnings. We open ourselves to the idea that there are revelations being delivered even when everything seems ordinary, and that, in itself, is already a gift. Because those who learn to listen have an advantage. That Alyssa went on with her life, but she never slept the same way again. Every time a strong dream comes, she stops, she listens, she considers. Because she understood that angels do not use megaphones, they use subtle paths, symbolic images, sensations that remain. And when you honor this, something inside you aligns with the invisible. Communication strengthens, space between the worlds becomes thinner. And then, my friend, everything can change. Comment. Here, this is too real, just so I know that. This story also resonated within you. Now that we have started to touch on this level of spiritual sensitivity, I want to take you to another point on this journey, because it's one thing to hear stories that touch us emotionally. It's quite another when something in them triggers a silent alert within us. As if we recognize, even without wanting to, that could have happened to us too. And maybe, this next story is one of those. A story that makes you think about the choices you make every day, about what you call coincidence, about the seemingly random paths you take. Without knowing that there could be a much bigger plan guiding every detail. It was a normal morning for Daniel. He always took the same route to work, at the same time, along the same streets. That repetitive routine that many people live without realizing that there is something mechanical about it all. Waking up, having breakfast, driving to the destination, as if each stage of the day was already planned. But the night before, something different happened. Daniel had a dream. One of those dreams that cannot be confused with what we eat or watch before going to sleep. It was as if he were inside a very real movie. In the dream, he was driving along the same route as always, when a violent accident happened. The sound of the tires, the impact, the confusion. He didn't see himself directly involved, but everything seemed to revolve around that moment. It was as if he were there as an observer, and at the same time, Part of it, he woke up scared. His heart was still racing. The image of the car turning over, the muffled screams, the sound of something breaking. Everything was engraved in his mind, but like anyone else, he tried to rationalize, it's just a dream. It's all in my head. Nothing major. But as he got ready that morning, that sense of alertness returned with a vengeance. It was like a whisper that wouldn't stop. Something in his body, perhaps his soul, seemed to be saying, don't go that way today. He even discussed it internally. But why? There's no point in changing. It's the fastest way. It's the way I know. But something convinced him. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was caution, or maybe it was faith. Either way, Daniel decided to take another route. He turned around, was a little late, and found the silence of the new route strange. But he arrived at work safely, and it was only later, in the middle of the afternoon, that he found out. A friend called him, showing him a news report on his cell phone. A serious accident, with multiple vehicles involved, had happened exactly at that point on the road he passed every day, and which he avoided out of pure instinct, because of that dream. There was no way he could not remember the details. Everything matched. The curve, the time, the description. That was no coincidence. That was intervention. And then, inevitably, the chilling question arises. What if he had ignored the dream? What if you had done what you do every day? What if you had laughed at yourself and gone down the same road? You never know. But one thing is certain, someone saved him. Someone warned him, and he listened. This story speaks of something that we have all felt, to a greater or lesser extent, the power of small decisions. Sometimes, changing paths seems insignificant. Sometimes, it is just another street, just another choice among many, but when there is a message behind it, a real sign, that decision can represent the fine line between disaster and protection. And that is the kind of thing that changes the way we see life, because it shows that even seemingly trivial details can be full of meaning. What is most impressive here is not the scare, nor the accident that was avoided. This is what is behind the scenes. The revelation that the invisible world cares, that there are eyes above us that see what we cannot see, that guide us, even when we do not understand the reason. But this only works when there is listening, when there is surrender, when we allow ourselves to get out of autopilot and consider that, yes, dreams can be messages, they can be maps, they can be silent rescue plans that arrive at the right time. And here comes something that is worth reflecting on. How many times have you ignored a subtle warning? How many times has a strange feeling made you hesitate, and you followed through anyway? Sometimes the impact doesn't come immediately. Sometimes you never know what would have happened if you had made a different choice. But when these stories come out, when we see ordinary people living extraordinary experiences like this, it's impossible not to think, how many times have I been protected? Without even knowing it, this awareness, when awakened, transforms you. You begin to value moments of silence more, to pay attention to that intuition that appears out of nowhere, to respect what you feel even when you can't explain it. And that's what changes everything. Because you're no longer guided only by logic or custom. You're walking with perception. You're listening behind the scenes. This journey is about that, about developing spiritual sensitivity, about understanding that messages will not always come out loud. Sometimes, they will come as a dream. Sometimes, as a persistent thought. Sometimes, as a choice that you feel in your chest, even without knowing why. And it is in these moments that we connect with something greater. That is when the hidden truth of existence begins to reveal itself, with depth, with impact, with intention. And perhaps this is the hidden invitation within this story, the invitation for you to slow down, observe more, trust more. The spiritual world does not need to prove anything to us, it just acts. It is up to us to decide whether we will listen, or follow autopilot. Write it down. I felt that sign, just so. I know that this story touched something inside you too, now that you understand how a simple dream can be the difference between chaos and protection. I want to take you to the next point on this spiritual journey, because no matter how much adults try to rationalize everything all the time, there is a purity, almost a spiritual transparency, that only a child carries. And when a warning comes through a soul like that, without filters, without suspicion, without the weight of the limiting beliefs that adult life imposes, something inside us becomes silent. Because there is truth there is a sign, there is intervention, and there is something that transcends logic, an invisible presence that manifests itself when we least expect it, but exactly when we need it most. This story begins with Lara, a girl of just 7 years old, a child like any other, sweet, curious, full of energy. That night, she went to bed early, as usual. Nothing seemed different. Her parents had planned to go out with her the next morning, a short walk to her grandmother's house, who lived a few blocks away. A normal morning, in a quiet neighborhood, but what no one expected was what would come before that. During the early hours of the morning, Lara had a dream. She woke up with her eyes wide open, breathing quickly, as if she had just come out of a very intense and silently deep place. In the dream, she was sitting in her own room, but the atmosphere was different. There was a strong but soft light, a presence, a figure that she later described as a person made of light. It had no face, it did not speak with its mouth, but she understood everything, and this figure approached her with indescribable serenity, placing its hand on her shoulder and saying, "Today, do not leave the house." That was it. Simple, direct, profound. Lara woke up feeling lightheaded, but her heart was heavy. When her parents went into the room to wake her up, they found the girl sitting on the bed, quiet. She looked at them and said, without hesitation, "We can't go out today." A person of light told me that. Her parents laughed, as is common. They tried to calm her down. "It was just a dream, my love," but she insisted. "It was real, it was different, I know." The mother hesitated. The father tried to convince her, but the firmness in his daughter's eyes wouldn't go away. It was more than childish stubbornness, it was conviction. And perhaps out of respect, perhaps out of caution, or perhaps driven by something they couldn't even name, they decided to stay home that day. 30 minutes after they were supposed to leave, a commotion broke out right on the street, on the corner where they usually walked. A robbery followed by an exchange of gunfire between police and criminals. People running, screaming, tension. The blood ran cold. Silence filled the house. This was not just luck, it was direction. And it was the voice of a child that brought the message, or rather, it was through the pure soul of a child that an angel manifested himself. There is something about this story that disarms any skeptical resistance, because it is difficult to imagine that a child could invent something with such emotional accuracy. When Lara spoke of the person of light, her eyes shone in a different way. It was as if she were remembering something that, at the same time, was not from here. And when such a young and innocent soul is used as a channel, we understand that heaven does not have criteria like ours. It does not choose the most intellectually prepared. It chooses the most spiritually open. This kind of event reveals more than just protection. It reveals a divine strategy, a way of showing us that we are being watched even in the details we ignore. And perhaps the lesson here is not just about angels or dreams. Perhaps it is about learning to listen, including the small, the fragile, the unlikely. Because sometimes the hidden truth does not come from the top of a mountain. It comes from the mouth of a child at breakfast, saying something you did not expect to hear. Throughout this journey, we have learned that spirituality does not obey the rules of logic. It acts where there is space. And in a child, this space is almost always complete. Because the child has not yet been contaminated by so many whys, by so many doubts, by so many urgencies that prevent us from understanding what really matters. Therefore, when a child dreams about something that moves them to the point of changing their behavior, we need to pay attention. The impact this had on Lara's family was immense. They never looked at their dreams the same way again. They began to record them, talk about them, and observe them more. And, most importantly, they began to value the invisible, that which cannot be explained, but can be felt. And this brought about transformation, because where there had been only routine, there was now purpose. Where there had been habit, there was now intention. And where there had been only wakefulness, sensitivity also emerged during sleep. Perhaps the biggest lesson here is that angels speak to everyone, but they choose the channels that are willing to listen. And sometimes, those channels are the most unlikely. The spiritual journey is full of surprises, of small decisions that open huge doors, of warnings that save, of revelations that set us free. But it all begins when we accept that mystery is part of the plan, that not everything will be explained, but everything can be understood if you are willing to feel more deeply. And when stories like this touch us, it's not just emotion, it's memory. It's our spirit recognizing that it has already experienced something like this, that it has had a moment of alert, a feeling of presence, a sudden intuition, that perhaps it has also been visited by someone, even without realizing it. The most important thing is to understand that we are not alone. We never were. Common here. I'm on this journey too, just so. I know you're walking with me on this discovery. Since we have descended even further into this dive between innocence and revelation, I want to open up a new layer of this conversation with you. Now that you are beginning to realize how these subtle signs can transform your life, I want to tell you that I have prepared some practical and direct material, especially for those who are interested in everything we are exploring here. Is something that can help you deepen this connection even further and bring personalized guidance from the Angelic kingdom to help you navigate these powerful transformations that often go unnoticed in our daily lives. The name of this material is Reading Your Birth Angel, a tool designed to help you connect clearly and directly with the message that your guardian angel has to guide you at this moment in your journey. If it makes sense to you, take a look at the material I left below in the description. It's an opportunity for you to dive deeper into this universe and bring some of the wisdom and protection that these invisible beings offer into your life in an accessible and practical way. But here's an important warning. This content may go offline at any time. So if it's useful to you, take advantage of it while it's still available. It's here in the description, but I may take it offline in the next few days, because I want to keep this space always updated. and focused on helping those who are really looking for these answers. This material is complementary to what we talked about here and can save you a lot of time in practice, avoiding doubts and helping you to recognize the signs and guidance of your personal angel more easily. So, when you want to take that extra step, just access the link there. Now, continuing our conversation, there is much more to discover. Imagine if, every time we close our eyes to sleep, we could open a secret door to a parallel universe that operates at a frequency completely different from what we experience in our daily lives. A universe where the answers our hearts yearn for, the guidance our minds silently seek, appear disguised in images, sounds, colors, textures, and sensations that, on the surface, seem like nothing more than a confusing and random mosaic. But what if I told you that, contrary to what many people think, not every dream is just a fantasy of the mind? That some dreams carry such real, intense urgency that ignoring them would be like closing our eyes to a vital warning that the universe is trying to send us. When we start talking about recognizing a dream as a true warning sign, we are entering a territory that defies common perception. It is as if, for a brief moment, the veil between the visible and invisible worlds becomes thinner, almost transparent, allowing fragments of the unknown to infiltrate our consciousness. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with a strange sensation in your chest, almost like a tightness or a knot that you cannot explain, but that seems to say something urgent? It is not a mere coincidence. This feeling of alertness that remains when we open our eyes is one of the most important clues that the dream was not random, but carried a profound message. And it doesn't stop there. The dreams that really deserve our attention are intense, vivid, almost palpable. They stand out precisely because they are full of clear details. You remember the colors, the faces, the sounds, the smell, even the temperature of that environment that you visited in your mind while you were sleeping. It could be a house, a street, a person that you have never seen before, but that you somehow recognize when you meet them in real life. Or maybe it is a very strong emotion that has stayed with you even after waking up. Deep fear, a feeling of protection, an inexplicable relief. A premonition that you cannot describe, but know is true. These emotions are what give weight and substance to the dream's message, making it impossible for it to be easily forgotten. Another aspect that helps identify a dream as a warning is repetition. How many times have you found yourself stuck in a sequence of similar dreams, which return night after night, insisting that you pay attention? This insistence from the unconscious is a clear sign. The message is urgent, and your mind is trying to ensure that you do not ignore it. When the dream repeats itself, it is as if it is knocking on the door of your soul, wanting to be heard so that you can take action, change a decision, avoid a danger, or simply prepare for what is to come. These practical tips are not just superficial guidance, they represent a deep reconnection with a hidden wisdom that already lives within you, an ancient wisdom that manifests itself in your intuition and in your heart. Recognizing a prophetic dream goes far beyond a simple mental act. It is an exercise in faith and perception, of trusting that there is a greater force working silently behind the scenes of your life, even when everything around you seems static and without answers. It is a powerful change of mindset, leaving the zone of skepticism or indifference and entering a new consciousness in which the dream ceases to be mere nocturnal entertainment and becomes a true map, a divine script. For your existence, this transformation is not small or trivial. It directly touches the core of your decisions, influences the way you face obstacles, and shapes your stance when faced with challenges and moments of uncertainty. Accepting and respecting these signs is like receiving a special guide, a light that illuminates the winding paths of life with greater clarity and certainty. It is what makes the difference between being a passive spectator and becoming the conscious protagonist of your own story, capable of leading your journey with greater purpose and wisdom. But of course, this skill requires practice and dedication. You need to learn to listen attentively, to interpret what may seem symbolic or enigmatic, because, in the spiritual realm, communication is rarely direct and literal. It occurs through codes, metaphors, images, and sensations that need to be deciphered. The more you practice this perception, the clearer the revelations become, making sense and aligning with the real events of your daily life. And it is not enough to simply recognize the dream as a warning. You must allow this message to provoke a true inner transformation. May it awaken a new mentality, a new worldview, and a renewed attitude towards existence. The impact of this can be enormous, because a dream that warns has the power to save lives, avoid mistakes, open unexpected doors, and illuminate decisions that previously seemed confusing. It is an invitation to trust more in the invisible, to understand that not everything is under rational control, but that there is an invisible network of care and protection that acts silently to guide your steps. Each warning dream, therefore, it is a rare opportunity for growth and self-knowledge. It is a key that opens doors to a hidden truth that you may have been avoiding or did not even know existed. It is a call to transform your relationship with time, with intuition, and, above all, with yourself. A chance to align your choices with a greater plan, a web of meanings that extends beyond your immediate understanding. Paying attention to the details of your dream is not just an exercise in curiosity. It is a profound act of self-love, respect, and responsibility for your own life. It is the courage to look within, even when the images and sensations brought up defy logic or confront reason. It is an invitation to awaken to those invisible connections that sustain your existence and guide you. Even when everything seems uncertain, comment, "This makes sense to me, just so. I know you're connected with me in this essential discovery." Now, I want to take you on an even deeper dive into this fascinating universe of dreams and the messages they carry so that you can begin to see beyond the surface and find between the lines of sleep the wisdom that can transform your life. It is a silent dimension that many people cannot even imagine, where the mind, soul, and spirit meet to converse in their own language, made up of symbols, sensations, and images that go beyond rational understanding. And when we talk about prophetic dreams, we are precisely touching on this hidden truth that permeates human existence, a territory where transformation happens at levels that the awakened mind still struggles to reach. This subtle communication, invisible to the common eye, has been the object of study and fascination for spiritual psychologists, scholars of human behavior, and mediums who dedicate themselves to exploring the backstage of the mind and the connection between the conscious and the unconscious. These experts, who combine science and spirituality, point out that dreams are more than just neurological phenomena. They are powerful channels used by the spiritual world to send personalized messages, guidance, and warnings. It is as if there were an invisible safety net, a signaling system that silently works to protect us, guide us, and drive us towards decisions that can change the course of our history. They say that during sleep, when the body rests and the rational mind relaxes, the soul becomes more receptive to this communication, which comes through vivid images, symbols loaded with meaning and intense emotions, preparing the ground for a profound internal change. Many scholars agree that the dream state is one of the few moments in which the barriers between time and space become malleable. This means that dreams can bring information that has not yet been experienced in our conscious reality, but that already exists in a kind of backstage of existence, in an invisible timeline where past, present, and future mix. This view challenges the modern mindset, which tries to explain everything through linear logic and neuroscience, showing that there is something beyond a truth, that only those who are open to this perception can grasp. One of the most striking aspects of these studies is the role of dreams in protection. The idea that angels, spiritual guides, or even our own intuition use this channel to warn us of imminent dangers or to prepare us emotionally for profound changes is fascinating and comforting. They do not arrive with shouts or obvious signs, but with subtleties, images that awaken a sense of alertness or an intuition that impels us to act. These signs can be the difference between a safe decision and an unnecessary risk, between an avoided moment of crisis and a painful learning experience. Furthermore, some mediums and experts report that, in dreams, messages are often delivered in symbolic codes, forms that our brain and soul can decipher at the right time, at the time of transformation. It is a kind of hidden code, a truth that reveals itself little by little, bringing revelations that directly impact our mentality and attitude towards life's challenges. This invisible exchange between the conscious and spiritual is a journey of self-knowledge where each dream serves as a mirror that reflects something we need to understand in order to grow. The impact of this connection goes far beyond the moment we wake up. Recognizing and interpreting these dreams can change the way we approach the decisions we make, how we face daily challenges, and how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. It is a transformation that begins deep within, between the lines of the mind, but that reverberates in behavior, choices, and the way we navigate life. It is like receiving a personalized roadmap for our journey, an invisible guide that appears when we least expect it, but exactly when we need it. This understanding opens the door to a more open mindset, a new way of seeing time, events, and the forces that act behind the curtain of visible reality. Revelations like these invite us to leave behind the skepticism that limits our perception and embrace the idea that life is much richer and more complex than what we can capture with our five senses. It is an invitation to expand our perspective and trust in the wisdom that lives within each of us, a wisdom that often manifests itself in dreams. What's more, this mindset has a profound impact on how we deal with the unknown and uncertainty. Instead of fearing what we don't understand, we begin to see signs and warnings as a safety net, an invisible support system that follows us every step of the way, ready to step in when needed. This mindset shift is essential for anyone seeking a life with more meaning, more connection, and more purpose. And it is fascinating to realize that, although this ancestral and spiritual perception is as old as humanity, it has never been so accessible to us as it is today, amidst so many tools and knowledge that unite science, spirituality, and self-knowledge. This convergence creates fertile ground for us to deepen our understanding of these dreams, interpret their signals, and apply this knowledge to transform our reality. Comment below. I'm on this journey too, so I know you're following this transformative discovery and connecting with this vision that can change everything down. I want to take you on an even deeper dive into understanding these signs, exploring the details that make all the difference when it comes to recognizing a true warning coming from the spiritual world. There is something profoundly transformative about realizing that, even in the quietest and most invisible moments of our lives, we are not alone. This truth, which many feel intuitively but few fully recognize, connects us to a reality where protection and guidance are not just abstract concepts, but real forces that act behind the scenes of our existence. The angels, guardians of this invisible world, are always present, extending their hand to guide, support, and protect us. But what few know is how they choose who to help, who to listen to, and how they make this connection happen. It is not a question of favoritism or exclusivity. In fact, we are all assisted, protected, and supported by these spiritual forces. However, the big question is our sensitivity and openness to perceive these subtle signs that arrive in mysterious ways. Often, these warnings are lost in the noise of everyday life, in the rush, the worries, the skepticism that keeps us from listening deeply. Therefore, the angel's choice is not about who they want to help, but about who is willing to see and accept this help, who allows these signs to penetrate their heart and mind. Think about it. How many times have you been saved, protected from danger, guided to a right decision, and not even realized it? Perhaps that seemingly insignificant sign, a strange dream, a sudden sense of alert, an intuition you tried to ignore, was the invisible hand of an angel, silently acting to keep you from facing a difficult situation. This idea is powerful, because it changes the way we view moments that we consider trivial or meaningless. It invites us to look more carefully, more attentively, at the little things that happen around us and within us. And here is a thought that may move you. If you are watching this video now, perhaps this is another sign to start paying more attention. Perhaps it is an invitation to awaken a sensitivity that was dormant, to open the eyes of the soul and realize that life is much more than it appears to be, that the messages and guidance exist, are available, but depend on our willingness to receive them. Thus is not just a matter of faith. It is a profound change in mindset and attitude towards the invisible. It is as if, by making room for this connection, you begin to perceive the behind the scenes of your journey, those subtle forces that influence your steps, that shape your decisions, and often save your life without you even realizing it. True transformation happens when we understand that our reality is permeated by these loving interventions, which exist beyond what the eyes see and reason can explain. This perception has a direct impact on the way you face your challenges. It brings a sense of acceptance and security, because there is now an invisible support network, a constant presence that is by your side, even when the world seems silent or hostile. It is a revelation that can change the way you live, the way you position yourself when faced with obstacles and decisions. You stop being just a passive spectator and become a conscious participant in this spiritual journey that is life. And this connection doesn't have to be something distant or complicated. In fact, it's within everyone's reach, precisely because we are all born connected to this higher energy. The secret is to recognize this connection and choose to embrace it. It's an invitation to trust, to realize that even in moments of doubt and uncertainty, there is a greater care working for you, that even in the shadows, an invisible light is always on, ready to guide your steps. As you reflect on this, you may recall times when you felt an intuition too strong to ignore, or dreams that seemed to convey messages beyond the obvious. These experiences are clues to the choices angels make. They choose to help those who are willing to listen, trust, and act on that listening. It's not a choice of exclusion, but a constant invitation to be attentive, to learn to decipher these signs that, although subtle, carry enormous power. This awakening is a real transformation that changes your mindset and your decisions. It opens a channel for hidden wisdom to manifest itself in your daily life, bringing impact and clarity to your journey. The hidden truth begins to reveal itself in the details of your daily life, in the small signs that previously went unnoticed, and which now take on a new meaning, a new strength to change everything. This is an opportunity for you to reconnect with this universe of protection and care, to realize that your story is being written not only by your conscious choices, but also by an invisible network that works behind the scenes, guiding each step. It is an invitation to transform your relationship with life, with time, with decisions, and to discover the impact that this new mindset can have on your journey. Comment below. This makes sense to me, just so I know you're feeling this connection and this change happening on the other side of the screen. Now, let's delve even deeper into this universe of signs and revelations that dreams bring, understanding better how this communication happens and how you can become increasingly sensitive to these essential messages. It is truly fascinating to reflect on how, amidst the frantic rush that modern life imposes on us, with a constant avalanche of commitments, information, and responsibilities competing for our attention, we end up neglecting something that is far beyond what the eyes can see. The subtle signs that the universe, the invisible, or even our own angels try to send us. These signs often appear in the quietest moments of our being, in dreams, in sudden intuitions, in that feeling that we cannot explain, but that insists on touching our hearts. And it is precisely in these almost imperceptible moments that the extraordinary reveals itself, bringing a unique opportunity for transformation, for profound change, for redirecting our journey. Every dream we have, every emotion that emerges upon waking, every fragment of a dream memory can hide a powerful message, capable of directly impacting the course of our existence. These are details that, at first glance, seem banal or disconnected, but which carry a silent and urgent force. Recognizing the value of these messages is not a superficial exercise. It means letting go of the mechanistic mentality and getting in touch with a deeper dimension of ourselves and the reality that surrounds us, one where time and space seem to dissolve, where past, present, and future converse in the same instant, and where intuition becomes a reliable compass. It's not just about dreaming, it's much more than a simple brain phenomenon that happens while we sleep. It's about an inner awakening, a call for our hearts and souls to become receptive to the subtler frequencies that surround us. It takes courage to face this, because messages don't always come wrapped in clear words or pleasant images. Sometimes they come in enigmatic symbols, in uncomfortable sensations, or even in warnings that defy our logic and security. And it's precisely in this discomfort that the seed of transformation lies, because by embracing the unknown, we make room for the new, for true alignment with what truly matters. When we talk about angels and spirituality working behind the scenes in our dreams, we are talking about something very concrete, yet invisible. These entities, or protective energies, do not act by chance. They are part of a network of care that extends beyond our comprehension, working silently to guide and protect us, especially when our rational consciousness is resting. Each meaningful dream is an opportunity granted to us to adjust our path, so that we can avoid dangers, perceive opportunities, and make decisions aligned with higher wisdom. That is why I insist on leaving a sincere and urgent warning. The next time you have an unusual dream, one that makes your heart race, that brings an unsettling sensation or unexpected clarity, do not let this experience slip away. Do not relegate it to the mere fantasy of a tired mind. It could be a message from the angels, a call from the invisible dimensions for you to pay attention, to change your course, to prepare for what is to come. Ignoring these messages could mean missing a valuable opportunity for protection and growth, an opportunity that does not come along twice. And when you share your story, when you open up about that dream that stirred your emotions, you not only release the weight that this experience carries, but you also strengthen a chain of collective understanding. Stories like these create a safe space for other people to also recognize their signs, trust their intuition, and allow themselves to live a more conscious spiritual journey. This exchange, this invisible support network, is one of the greatest gifts we can build for each other, a space where learning, care, and transformation walk hand in hand. Furthermore, when you recognize the value of these signs and incorporate them into your daily routine, your mindset changes. You stop being a passive spectator, stuck in limited logic and simplistic interpretations, and start acting with the confidence of someone who has a secret map, special guidance to face daily challenges. This new attitude has a direct impact on your quality of life, your choices, and the way you see the future. You start to understand that you are not alone, that there is a greater force working in your favor, and that your intuition is a privileged channel of this divine communication. Of course, this ability to perceive, interpret, and act based on signals requires practice. It requires that you practice mindfulness, that you strengthen your connection with your inner self, and that you accept that spiritual life is a real dimension that directly influences your physical, emotional, and mental life. Little by little, you learn to decode the metaphors of dreams, to recognize the patterns of messages, to distinguish what comes from a restless mind from what comes from wisdom that transcends time. And, in this process, you discover that revelations arrive when you least expect them, always at the right time to make the necessary impact. Therefore, do not underestimate the importance of paying attention to small details, to the emotions that accompany a dream, to the repetition of scenes and sensations. These are valuable clues that can save lives, prevent mistakes, and open unexpected doors. They are invitations for you to broaden your vision, transform your mindset, and embrace a journey of self-knowledge and spiritual protection. Each warning dream is a reminder that the universe is in constant dialogue with us, and that it is up to us to be attentive and receptive. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on the impact that this new awareness can have on your daily life. Imagine how much more assertive your decisions could be, your attitudes more aligned, and your life more protected if you were open to listening to these subtle signals. It is an opportunity for real transformation, for an evolutionary leap that begins the moment you decide to change the way you perceive and act. Comment: "This makes sense to me, so I know you're here." connected to this essential discovery, and so that we can delve even deeper into this conversation about signs, dreams, and the messages they carry, I want to invite you to continue with me in this immersion, exploring how to become increasingly receptive to this divine communication that often happens in the most unexpected places. If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation really touched something inside you, and that's already a very special sign. If this content brought clarity and awakened a new way of seeing your dreams and signs, I invite you to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving stories, reflections, and discoveries that can transform your journey. Here, we are building a space where each person can feel more connected to what is often hidden behind the scenes of life. Leave a comment saying something like "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me." It's a way for me to know that we're on the same wavelength, that this exchange is really happening. And if this video touched you, leave a like, because that's how we strengthen this chain of connection and make this good energy reach more people who also seek to understand the invisible. And before you go, there's a video here that complements everything we talked about today, with incredible stories and even more profound signs. Click and stay with me there. This journey is just beginning.